Sir, this area is for paying guests only. I built this area. The words hung in the air like smoke before a fire. Robinson Smith, 84 years old, black, and dressed in nothing more than a trench coat and tie, stood perfectly still in the marble lobby of the Monarch Grand, the hotel he built with his own hands, the empire that bore his vision. But Karen Mitchell, the on-duty manager, didn't see a founder. She saw a problem. And in exactly 11 minutes, she would lose everything: her job, her reputation, and her carefully constructed sense of authority, right here in this lobby, in front of cameras she didn't even know were recording yet. Before we continue, let me know in the comments, have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked? Hit subscribe, because the justice that's about to unfold is the kind that restores your faith. Now let's rewind to how this moment began. Robinson entered through the main doors. No chauffeur, no entourage, no VIP treatment. Just an elderly black man in a simple coat, moving with the slow, deliberate steps of someone who'd walked these halls 1,000 times before. The lobby stretched out before him, vaulted ceilings, gold-trimmed columns, Italian marble that reflected the glow of 3 massive crystal chandeliers. Everything he'd designed. Everything he'd fought to build when the world told him he couldn't. He approached the front desk. Behind it stood Karen Mitchell, 42, blonde hair pulled into a sharp bun, lips pressed into a line that suggested she smiled only when necessary. Flanking her were 2 security officers, both young, both uncomfortable, both already sensing something was off about this situation. None of them greeted him. Karen looked him up and down like he'd tracked mud across her carpet. Her eyes lingered on his worn coat, his unpolished shoes, the quiet way he carried himself. "Can I help you?" she asked, but the tone said she didn't intend to. Robinson placed both hands gently on the counter. His voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of decades. "I'd like to look around. It's been a while." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Sir, this lobby is reserved for hotel guests and members only. If you're not staying with us, I'll have to ask you to leave." A guest near the elevator, a woman in her 30s with her phone already out, stopped mid-step. She glanced at Robinson, then at Karen, sensing the shift in the air. Robinson didn't move. "I'm not here to cause trouble." "Then you won't mind showing proof of reservation or a room key." He didn't reach for his wallet. He simply looked at her. Not with anger, not with defiance, but with something far more powerful. Certainty. "I don't need a key," he said quietly, "to walk through a building I own." Karen blinked, then laughed, a short cutting sound that echoed off the marble. "Sir, I don't know what you think this is, but I'm going to need you to leave now." Any of the officers stepped forward. "Sir, let's make this easy." "Wait." The woman by the elevator spoke up, phone raised. "I'm recording this. I think you all should know that." Another guest, an older white man in a business suit, pulled out his phone too. "Yeah, me too. This doesn't feel right." Karen's jaw tightened. She turned to the officers. "Escort him out, now." The 2 men moved in, hands hovering near Robinson's arms but not quite touching. Something in his stillness made them hesitate. Robinson looked at them with calm eyes. "Gentlemen, you're doing your job. I respect that." Then he lifted his wrist, just slightly, and tapped his smartwatch once. The movement was so small, so subtle, most people missed it. But 3 blocks away, in a sleek corner office overlooking the city, Michael Green, Robinson's assistant of 20 years, received a single notification on his tablet: initiate protocol. Michael stood, grabbed his briefcase, and headed for the elevator. Back in the lobby, Karen's computer screen flickered, then froze. All across the hotel, every terminal, every register, every digital display, the same message appeared in bold red letters: executive hold. Audit in progress. Karen stared at her screen. Her face went pale. "What the hell?" One of the guests gasped, staring at her phone. "Oh my God, that's him! That's Colonel Robinson Smith." Another guest shouted, "Wait, the Robinson Smith, the founder?" The lobby screen above the reception desk, usually displaying welcome messages and event schedules, suddenly switched to a corporate video. The Monarch Grand welcomes founder Robinson Smith for internal audit visit. Karen's mouth opened. No sound came out. Robinson turned to the officers. Gentlemen, you can let go now. They did, immediately. He looked at Karen. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Respect should never depend on recognition. But to understand why Robinson Smith walked into his own hotel unannounced, why he allowed himself to be humiliated in front of strangers, and why he was about to dismantle an entire management team in under an hour, we need to go back. Back to a letter he received 3 nights ago. A letter from a young woman named Alyssa. A letter that told him everything he feared was true. 3 nights earlier. Robinson's penthouse study. The envelope sat on his mahogany desk. Handwritten address. No return label. Robinson had opened thousands of letters over the decades. Thank yous from employees, complaints from guests, pitches from entrepreneurs. But this one made him read it 3 times. Dear Colonel Smith, I don't know if this will reach you. I'm a concierge at the Monarch Grand in Seattle. I've worked here for 2 years, and I love this hotel. I love what it stands for, or what it's supposed to stand for. But something's broken here, sir. They treat us like props, not people. The minority staff, I mean. We're fine for photos, great for diversity brochures, but the moment a guest complains or something goes wrong, we're the first ones blamed. Last week, a black couple was accused of stealing robes they'd already paid for in their bill. Management made them open their luggage in the lobby in front of everyone. I spoke up. I got written up for overstepping. I don't know what you can do, or if you even still care about places like this, but I thought you should know. This isn't the Monarch you built. Respectfully, Alyssa Monroe Robinson set the letter down and stared out the window at the city lights. His city, the one that had refused him a loan in 1964 because banks didn't trust his kind with money. The one that had denied him and his late wife, Grace, a table at a restaurant because the host said they didn't have availability, while seating a white couple who walked in after them. He'd built the Monarch Grand to be the opposite of that, a place where dignity wasn't a privilege, where respect was the foundation, not a courtesy. And now, 60 years later, the rot had crept back in. Robinson made his decision that night. No assistance, no advance notice, no royal entrance. He would see it himself. The next morning, his chauffeur, Marcus, stood beside the black sedan in the driveway, confused. Sir, you sure you don't want me to drive you? Robinson adjusted his trench coat. I'm sure, Marcus. I'll take a cab. To your own hotel? Robinson smiled faintly. Especially to my own hotel. He arrived unnoticed. No doorman greeting, no red carpet. Just an 84-year-old black man in a modest coat, stepping into a lobby that no longer remembered him. And that's when Karen saw him. Back in the lobby, present moment. Karen's voice had cut through the quiet like a blade. Sir, this area is for paying guests only. Robinson heard it, not just the words, but the tone, the same dismissive edge he'd heard in 1964, the assumption, the judgment, the certainty that he didn't belong. He didn't flinch. I'd like to look around, he'd said calmly. But Karen wasn't interested in calm. She was interested in control. Proof of reservation. Now. Robinson reached into his coat pocket, slow and deliberate. He pulled out his wallet, old leather, worn at the edges, and slid his ID and credit card across the counter. Karen picked up the black card between 2 fingers, holding it like it might contaminate her. Her eyes flicked from the card to Robinson's face, then back again. This looks fake, she muttered, just loud enough for her staff to hear. One of the younger clerks behind her stifled a nervous laugh. Robinson said nothing. He simply watched. A guest near the concierge desk, a woman in her 50s, leaned over to her husband. Did she just say his card is fake? Her husband pulled out his phone, started recording. Another guest, a younger man with a backpack, did the same. This is messed up, he whispered. Karen didn't notice, or didn't care. She tapped her computer screen with one manicured nail, squinting at the information like it personally offended her. There's no reservation under this name. Check again, Robinson said quietly. I don't need to check again. Karen's voice rose, sharp and final. I know a scam when I see one. That's when Robinson tapped his watch, and everything changed. Karen's finger hovered over the intercom button for only a second before she pressed it. Her voice rang through the lobby speakers, crisp and dripping with authority. Security to the front desk immediately. The words echoed off the marble floors, the vaulted ceilings, the gold-trimmed columns. Every head in the lobby turned, conversations stopped mid-sentence. A child tugged on his mother's sleeve, sensing the tension. Robinson stood perfectly still, hands resting gently on the counter. His expression hadn't changed. Calm, measured, unmoved. Within 30 seconds, the two security officers who'd been standing nearby approached. One was older, mid-40s, with gray at his temples and hesitation in his eyes. The other was younger, late 20s, eager to prove himself. Karen stepped back from the counter, arms crossed, chin lifted. "Gentlemen, this individual is attempting to access our facilities without proper authorization. I need him removed from the premises." The older officer glanced at Robinson, then at Karen. "Ma'am, has he caused any disturbance?" "He's here," Karen snapped. "That's disturbance enough. You have 20 minutes to escort him out before I call the real police." Real police. The words landed like a slap. The younger officer moved first, reaching for Robinson's arm. The older one followed, more reluctant but compliant. They took his gently, firmly but not roughly, one hand on each arm. And in that moment, Robinson felt it, the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. The echo of hands that had grabbed him before, in Highshamai outside a diner in Alabama, in 1968 at a protest in Washington. The same firm grip, the same assumption of guilt, the same message, "You don't belong here." But this time it was his own hotel, his own dream, his own name above the door. He didn't resist. He let them guide him toward the entrance, his steps slow and deliberate. Behind the desk, Karen turned to her staff, two younger clerks who'd been watching the whole scene unfold. She let out a short, dismissive laugh. "See," she said, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "They always think they can just walk in and pretend to belong. Every single time." One of the clerks laughed nervously. The other looked away. But the guest didn't. A woman near the elevator whispered to her companion, phone still recording. "Wait, he looks familiar. I swear I've seen him somewhere." An older man in a business suit leaned toward his wife. "Isn't that—" "No, it can't be." "Karen," one of the desk clerks said quietly, "maybe we should double-check the—" "I did check," Karen cut her off. "There's nothing to check. He's a scammer." Robinson, still walking between the two officers, turned his head slightly, just enough to see the phones raised, the cameras pointed, the guest watching with growing unease. He glanced down at his wrist, at the smartwatch Michael had insisted he wear. "Just in case," Michael had said. "One tap, and I'll know." Robinson's finger brushed the screen, a single subtle motion, barely noticeable. No one saw it. But 3 blocks away, Michael Green's phone buzzed. The message was simple. Now. Michael stood, grabbed his tablet, and walked out the door. Back in the lobby, the officers had nearly reached the glass entrance doors. Karen stood behind her desk, arms still crossed, satisfaction written across her face. And then, every screen in the building went at black. The officers had Robinson halfway to the door when Karen's voice cut through the lobby again. "Wait!" They stopped. Robinson turned his head slightly, just enough to see her striding toward them, heels clicking against the marble with sharp, staccato precision. She held his black card between 2 fingers like evidence at a crime scene. "Hotel policy requires us to confiscate suspected fraudulent payment methods," she announced, her voice loud enough to carry. She wasn't speaking to Robinson. She was performing for the lobby. "We'll be submitting this to our fraud investigation team." One of the desk clerks behind her shifted uncomfortably. "Karen, I don't think that's actually—" "I know the policy," Karen snapped without turning around. Her eyes stayed locked on Robinson, cold and triumphant. "Sir, you'll receive correspondence in 7 to 10 business days regarding the status of this card. Until then, you are not permitted on Monarch Grand property." Robinson looked at her for a long moment. His voice, when he finally spoke, was barely above a whisper, but it carried. "Be careful what policy you invoke." Karen's smile tightened. "Is that a threat?" "It's advice." She laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound. "Security, get him out of here." Robinson lifted his wrist. The motion was so small, so effortless, that most people missed it entirely. Just his thumb brushing across the face of his smartwatch. One tap. Clean, deliberate. Then he lowered his hand and waited. 3 blocks away, Michael Green's tablet lit up with a single notification. Protocol initiated. Founder authorization confirmed. Michael's fingers flew across the screen. He pulled up the hotel's central operations dashboard. Security, reservations, point-of-sale systems, digital displays, and entered a 6-digit override code that only 3 people in the world knew. He pressed execute. In the lobby, the first screen to go dark was the one above the reception desk. Then the monitors behind the front desk blinked out. 1, 2, 3, like dominoes falling. Karen's computer screen flickered once, twice, then froze entirely, cursor blinking uselessly in the center of a locked blue screen. Across the lobby, the guest information kiosks went black. The elevators stopped mid-floor, their digital displays replaced with a single flashing message. Executive hold. Audit in progress. The air conditioning system's hum shifted to a lower register. Emergency lighting kicked on in the hallways. Phones at the concierge desk started buzzing in rapid succession. Karen stared at her screen, face going pale. What the? One of the clerks behind her frantically tapped her keyboard. I'm locked out. The whole system's frozen. Mine too, the other clerk said, voice rising. Everything's down. Guests pulled out their phones, murmuring in confusion. A businessman near the windows looked up from his laptop. Did the Wi-Fi just cut out? Karen spun toward the IT office door behind the desk. Someone get tech support up here now. But before anyone could move, the massive digital screen above the reception desk, the one that usually displayed welcome messages and event schedules, flickered back to life. The Monarch Grand logo appeared first, gleaming gold against black. Then, in bold red letters beneath it, executive hold. System audit in progress, unauthorized access, suspended founder protocol active. The lobby went silent. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. One of the guests, the woman who'd been recording earlier, zoomed in on the screen with her phone. Founder protocol, she read aloud. What does that mean? Another guest whispered, is someone from corporate here? Robinson stood between the 2 officers, hands folded calmly in front of him, watching the chaos unfold with the patience of a man who'd waited 60 years for this moment. Karen's eyes darted from the screen to Robinson and back again. Who triggered this? She demanded, voice cracking. Robinson said nothing. He simply smiled. The silence stretched for 3 long seconds. Then a guest near the concierge desk, a woman in her 30s with tortoiseshell glasses, gasped so loudly it echoed off the marble. Oh my God! Her phone trembled in her hand as she stared at the screen, then at Robinson, then back at her phone. That's him. Her companion leaned over. Who? That's Colonel Robinson Smith. Her voice grew louder with each word, disbelief turning to certainty. The founder. He built this whole chain. I just Googled him. That's his face. Heads whipped toward Robinson. Phones came out. Fingers swiped frantically across screens. Holy shit, someone muttered from near the elevator. Wait, the Robinson Smith? The guy from the documentary? Karen stood frozen behind the desk, eyes locked on the massive screen above her. It had been black for only a moment, long enough for dread to settle in her chest. And now it was flickering back to life. The Monarch Grand logo faded in, elegant and unmistakable. Then the text appeared, line by line, in crisp white letters against a deep navy background. Welcome Colonel Robinson Smith, founder and chairman. Emeritus Internal Audit Visit, October 22nd to 25. All staff, standard protocols in effect. The blood drained from Karen's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She gripped the edge of the desk like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Robinson turned slowly toward the 2 security officers still holding his arms. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Gentlemen, you may release me now. Their hands dropped instantly. Sir, the older officer said, voice hoarse. We didn't know. I'm so sorry, sir. You were doing your job, Robinson said evenly. She told you to. Both officers stepped back, eyes downcast, faces burning with shame. Robinson adjusted his coat, smoothed the lapels, and turned toward the lobby. toward the guests who were now recording openly, mouths hanging open, toward Karen, who looked like she might collapse. His voice wasn't loud. He didn't need to shout. The lobby was so quiet that every word carried. You've all just witnessed what my staff calls hospitality. He let the words settle, heavy and damning. Let's continue. Karen finally found her voice. It came out strangled, desperate. Sir, Mr. Smith, Colonel Smith, I didn't know it was you. Robinson looked at her. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, just with calm, devastating clarity. I know you didn't. He took one step toward the desk. That's the problem. Karen's breath hitched. Her hands were shaking now, visibly, as she clutched the edge of the counter. Behind her, the desk clerks had gone pale. One of them was crying silently. A phone buzzed. Then another. Within seconds, a dozen devices in the lobby were lighting up with notifications, news alerts, social media tags, messages flooding in. The footage was already spreading. And Robinson wasn't done yet. Karen's voice came out in broken fragments, each word tripping over the last. Sir, you have to understand. You came in unannounced. No one told us. There was no advance notice. I was just following proto. Stop. Robinson's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through her panic like a blade through silk. He took one step closer to the desk, then another, slow, deliberate. His eyes never left hers. Respect, he said quietly, should never depend on recognition. Karen's mouth opened, closed. Her hands gripped the counter so tightly her knuckles went white. Robinson reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen once, then held it up. Speaker on. It rang twice. Michael, Robinson said when the line connected. His voice was calm, almost conversational. I'm standing in the lobby of the Monarch Grand Seattle. I need you to initiate termination protocol. There was a pause, then Michael's voice came through, clear and professional. For whom, sir? Manager Karen Mitchell, and all staff complicit in today's incident. Karen's eyes went wide. Wait, no, you can't. Document insubordination, discriminatory conduct, and violation of Company Code Section 4. Dignity and respect for all persons regardless of appearance or perceived status. Understood, sir. Processing now. Karen lurched forward, hand reaching across the desk as if she could stop the phone call by sheer force of will. You can't fire people in public. This is humiliating. Robinson looked at her, really looked at her, and when he spoke, his voice carried across the entire lobby. You did it first. Karen froze. When you judged me before you knew who I was. When you held my card like it was contaminated. When you called security to remove me from a building I built with my own hands. He paused. You humiliated me in public, Ms. Mitchell. I'm simply returning the courtesy. A notification sound chimed, once, then again, then a dozen times in rapid succession. Every computer terminal in the lobby flashed the same message. Access revoked. User accounts disabled. Effective immediately, contact HR for exit processing. Karen's computer screen went black, then red. She looked down at the ID badge clipped to her blazer. The small LED light that had glowed green for 3 years blinked once, then turned red. Behind her, the two desk clerks stared at their own screens in horror. Same message, same red light on their badges. No, Karen whispered. No, no, no. The younger clerk, the one who'd laughed when Karen mocked Robinson's card, started crying openly now. I have student loans. I need this job. Robinson's gaze shifted to her briefly. You should have thought of that before you laughed at cruelty. He looked back at Karen. You have 30 minutes to collect your personal belongings and exit the premises. Security will escort you. This is illegal, Karen's voice cracked, rising to a shout. I'll sue. You're welcome to try. Robinson's tone didn't change. My legal team is very good, and the footage from today will make excellent evidence. He gestured toward the lobby, toward the dozen phones still recording, the guests watching with wide eyes, the woman near the elevator who'd been live streaming the entire encounter. Karen followed his gaze, saw the cameras, saw the faces. Her legs buckled slightly. She caught herself on the desk. And then the lobby erupted. Applause started near the elevator. Tentative at first, then building. Guests clapped, cheered, whistled. Someone shouted, "Yes!" Others raised their phones higher, capturing every second. Karen stood there, badge blinking red, career ending in real time, surrounded by the sound of her own downfall. Robinson turned away from her. He was done. Karen Mitchell walked through the lobby for the last time with a security officer on each side. Her hands trembled as she clutched a small cardboard box, personal items hastily shoved inside. A coffee mug, a framed certificate, the nameplate that had sat on her desk for 3 years. Guests parted to let her through, phones still raised, still recording. No one said a word. They didn't need to. The silence was judgment enough. The glass doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. She was gone. Inside, the lobby buzzed with energy, guests talking in clusters, showing each other their videos, replaying the moment the screen had revealed Robinson's identity. Within an hour, the footage was everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, news sites. By evening, cable news had picked it up. An anchor on CNN leaned into the camera, eyes bright with the kind of story that writes itself. We're calling it the Monarch moment, when a hotel founder walked into his own property and exposed discrimination in real time. The video had 15 million views by midnight, 30 million by morning. Behind the scenes, conference room, 6th floor. Robinson sat at the head of a long mahogany table. Around him, 8 regional executives sat in stiff-backed chairs, faces pale, notepads open, pens poised. Michael Green stood beside a projection screen, tablet in hand. "Full audit," Robinson said, his voice leaving no room for negotiation. "Every property, every manager, every incident report filed in the last 2 years. I want to know where else this is happening." "Sir," one of the executives ventured carefully, "a full audit of that scope could take months." "Then we start today." Silence. "I also want mandatory retraining for all customer-facing staff. Not a seminar, not a webinar, real training. Facilitators who've lived this, people who understand what bias looks like when it's dressed up as policy." Michael made notes on his tablet. Robinson leaned forward. "And I want Alyssa Monroe, the concierge who wrote to me, reinstated immediately and promoted to assistant general manager." One of the executives blinked. "Sir, she's only been with us 2 years. She had the courage to tell me the truth when no one else would." Robinson's gaze swept the table. "That's the kind of leadership I want." Michael nodded. "I'll draft the appointment letter tonight." By the end of the week, the audit had already begun to unearth more stories. A Monarch property in Boston, a Latino family questioned about their ability to pay despite having a confirmed reservation. One in Atlanta, a Black businessman accused of loitering in the bar where he'd been waiting for a client. Chicago, Phoenix, Denver. The pattern was undeniable. Robinson's PR team begged him to control the narrative, to soften the language, to frame it as isolated incidents. He refused. In a press statement released from his office, Robinson's words were blunt. "We will not bury the truth under carpets we own. The Monarch Grand was built on the principle that dignity is non-negotiable. We failed that principle. We will earn it back, not with words, but with action." The statement went viral too, not because it was polished, because it was honest. 3 months later, the Monarch Grand Seattle reopened on a crisp January morning. Robinson stood near the back of the lobby, unnoticed again, but this time by choice. He wore a simple suit, hands folded behind his back, watching. The space looked the same: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, gold trim gleaming under soft light. But something fundamental had shifted. Behind the reception desk, new faces greeted guests with genuine warmth. A young Black woman checked in an elderly white couple, laughing at something the husband said. A Latino man in a concierge uniform helped a family with directions, kneeling down to speak to their daughter at eye level. Above the desk, a banner stretched across the wall in bold letters: "Respect first," not as a slogan, as a promise. Robinson's eyes moved to the woman standing beside the front desk, tablet in hand, overseeing the morning shift with quiet confidence. Alyssa Monroe, assistant general manager. She noticed an older Black gentleman approaching the desk hesitantly, dressed in worn jeans and a jacket. One of the new clerks greeted him immediately, warmly. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Monarch Grand. How can we help you today?" No judgment, no assumptions, just respect. The man's shoulders relaxed. He smiled. Robinson felt something loosen in his chest. Alyssa glanced up and caught his eye across the lobby. She smiled, small, grateful, proud, and he nodded back. He turned toward the reception desk and stopped in front of a newly installed bronze plaque mounted beside it. The metal gleamed under the lights, the engraving crisp and permanent. Respect is not a courtesy, it's a foundation. Colonel Robinson Smith, founder Robinson, traced the words with his fingertips, then stepped back. The lobby hummed with life, guests from every background, every walk of life, all treated with the same dignity, the way it was always meant to be. He turned and walked toward the exit, trench coat brushing softly against his legs. His work here was done. Crystal glasses clinked. Soft jazz drifted from a quartet in the corner. The lobby had been transformed for the evening. Elegant tables draped in white linen, centerpieces of white roses, guests in formal attire mingling beneath the chandeliers. The Veterans Charity Gala. An annual tradition Robinson had started 30 years ago. He stood near the center of the room in his dress uniform, medals across his chest, silver hair neatly trimmed, posture still military straight at 84. Around him, dignitaries, donors, old friends, and journalists gathered, champagne flutes in hand. A reporter from the Seattle Times approached, microphone extended. "Colonel Smith, the question everyone's been asking, why didn't you reveal who you were immediately? Why let it go so far?" Robinson smiled, the kind of smile that held decades of wisdom, because true character shows when no one's watching. The reporter nodded, scribbling notes. A few minutes later, the room quieted as Robinson stepped to the podium. He adjusted the microphone, looked out over the crowd, and began. "I fought for a flag that once ignored me." His voice was steady, calm, but it carried the weight of history. "I wore this uniform in a country that told me I wasn't equal. I built this brand so no one else would feel invisible beneath it." He paused, eyes sweeping the room, over the reform staff, over Alyssa standing near the reception desk in an elegant gown, over the bronze plaque gleaming on the wall. "What happened here 3 months ago wasn't about me. It was about all of us, about the world we choose to build when we think no one important is watching." The applause started softly, then swelled, genuine, earned, thunderous. An hour later, Robinson stepped through the glass doors into the cool night air. The city stretched out before him, lights glowing like stars brought down to earth. He pulled his trench coat tighter, breathed deeply, and started walking. Slowly, peacefully. A man who'd reclaimed not just a hotel, but the principle it was built upon. Behind him, the lobby glowed warm and golden, a beacon of what respect could build when it became foundation instead of courtesy. They thought they were escorting an old man out of a hotel. Turns out they were walking their own careers out the door. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another moment of justice being served. Drop a comment below telling us what you would have done in Robinson's position. Would you have revealed yourself immediately or let them dig their own graves? Share this video with someone who needs to see that respect isn't negotiable. And remember, true character shows when no one's watching. See you in the next story.